Welcome to Martini Time. So, I hope you've had a good day today. It's been a beautiful day here in Blackstone, the center of the world. But then you too are in the center of the world. So, last evening, we talked about the bull from the sea and the myth of King Minos, Theseus, the labyrinth, and the Minotaur. And I talked a little bit about King Minos, who was in a battle for the crown and asked Poseidon to send him a bull from the sea so he could win the crown, and he would sacrifice that bull, which is a divinity. I mean, this is sacrificing the bull is a sacrificing to God in that sense. And so he won the crown, and he started building his empire. But then when they looked at that bull and says, "Oh, that's such a beautiful white bull. I'm going to keep that for myself, and I'll substitute one from my herd." So he substituted a regular bull for this divine bull. Didn't make the sacrifice. And so he didn't make the sacrifice. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. Not hearing the call and not making the sacrifice. I've been rereading Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. And the hero journey begins with the call. The hero hears a call. Ministers have a calling. Everyone has a calling, we hope. They get called to be a plumber. They get called to be something. There's something that touches them and they know that's their destiny. I'm going to be a dancer. A calling. Something calls you. You see a role model. You see a model as a child and you say, "That's me." We all hear stories about that. The child goes and sees somebody and knows that's what I'm going to be. It's a calling. The call to adventure. The calling pulls you out of your town, like people grow up in a hometown and some hear a call to leave the hometown and go out into the larger world. Others don't answer the call. Others stay in their hometown, which is fine. But I'm just saying that the stories are full of the call and those who answer. And I just remembered, and it just finally made sense to me. Zorba the Greek. His little bits of wisdom kind of like go off, if you get the soundtrack of Zorba the Greek, you can hear Zorba's wisdom sayings. And one of his wisdom sayings was, "The greatest sin is if a woman calls a man to her bed and he does not go." Well, that's kind of funny. But then, metaphorically, what he's talking about there, if you hear a call and you don't go, that is the greatest sin. And there's another saying that Jesus comes but once. So, in other words, if you miss the calling, God becomes your enemy. If you miss the calling to your divine destiny, if you miss and turn away, if you turn away from the calling to be greater than you are, God and truth then become your enemy. Truth becomes your enemy if you turn away from truth. If you turn away from the calling of your greater higher being, your higher being becomes your enemy. Because whenever it calls, you say, "Get hence from me, Satan," you see. "Get away from me, Satan," because you refuse the call. So that sends you back into a vortex. It sends you back into a descending vortex because you refused your destiny. You turn away from the call. And so I reflect on Trump as a King Minos is kind of like a metaphor for Trump, because the presidency is the closest we can get in our secular culture to a divine calling. A divine calling. Now, I know it's a secular, we don't know God here, but that doesn't mean it's the calling to something greater than you are. I see the president is a is a mythic role. He's kind of like the son of America. He is the one man, every man. So the president is a transcendent office that when a mortal it gets the call to be president, so he competes with the other candidates. And he wins. He gets accepted. There's a sacrifice there, you see. He got the bull from the sea. But if he doesn't sacrifice that bull, and he keeps it for himself, for personal aggrandizement, he keeps the office for personal benefit. He keeps the office for personal power, you see. He refused the call. And his house of cards will come tumbling down. His house of cards will come tumbling down, you see, because he refused the call. So that's really interesting, I think, in noticing this has been the biggest complaint about Trump, is that he doesn't act like a president. He doesn't honor the rules of the presidency. And he claims power to himself instead of the office. And he maintains his business. He's making money off of the presidency. So he didn't sacrifice the bull. But this is not, Trump is kind of like the personification of a movement in our country that has been going on for 40, 50 years. And it's been a movement that makes public service, the calling of public service, diminished. So that personal service, business, corporation is the ideal. Personal aggrandizement, money, power is our ideal. Public service, that's for, you don't make much money there. So what public service is a divine calling. Public service is a spiritual calling. See, this is the problem with a secular society. It doesn't have any spiritual categories in it. It doesn't have any spiritual path. It doesn't have any spiritual understanding. It has religious understanding, but that's not spiritual for the most part. Can be. But for the most part, religion is just an institution in society, which is out for itself too. What about me? I'm a victim. What about me? You see, so this whole movement in all areas of our society began when the government and public service, government is public service, government became the enemy. And you outsourced everything to the corporations, to private enterprise. Private enterprise. Nothing wrong with that, but the point is that if you degrade public service, that is a spiritual calling, because you're giving up your private interest for public service. That's the ideal. If you go to an ashram to live with your teacher, what's he going to do? He's going to put you to work in ashram service. It's called seva. You're going to be cleaning the toilet. Don't care if you're a bank executive. You'll be cleaning the toilet. You see? Public service. Humility. This is the teaching of Jesus. Public service. Serving the poor. Serving the people. Service, the good of the whole versus the good of me. So this, if you want to say what's wrong with America, well, this is what's wrong. Is that somewhere along the line, we shifted from honoring public service to private service. And then everything gets outsourced to private enterprise, business, private enterprise, corporation, corporate power. Greed is good, you see. Wall Street. Everything shifted to profit, personal profit, not public service. You see. So we've lost our spiritual track to service. The other day I saw a couple of Mormons, young men, walking around. They all come to Blackstone for to do their duty. Little white shirts and a tie, black pants. They look like little penguins, you can tell them. But they're doing public service. They're doing a service, you see. When Kennedy was president, he established the Peace Corps. Young people flocked to it. Why? It was service, sacrifice. Sacrifice to the greater good. The only The only sacrifice we have now is in the military. They're the only ones that sacrifice. Maybe the first responders. They sacrifice to the public good by risking their lives, and that is a vocation of service. The vocation of service, you see. Used to be government work. Used to be public service. If you became a senator or a president or a representative, that was a public service, you see. But a political party got trapped in it too. When Gingrich came to town, he turned the Republican Party into my party, right or wrong. He changed patriotism to the nation to patriotism to the Republican Party. I watched that happen. We all watched, if you were around then, we all watched it happen. You were patriotic to the Republican Party, and then the Republican Party, as the patriotic party, became the one without a second, you see. So the Republican Party didn't sacrifice the bull. It didn't make the sacrifice to public service, which in Congress means working with your opponent. Compromising, working with your opponent. Not trying to wipe them out so they never get office again. So your reign is for 1,000 years, you see. Republican Party forever and ever and ever. Democrats will never hold office again. That was the goal, you see. Well, that's not public service. That's party service. So I'm not saying the Democrats are innocent here. I'm just saying that the Republican Party mastered this shift. And they're still doing it. So, anyway, the sacrifice of the refusing the call. Is the call to service. The call to sacrifice. It's the beginning of the journey of the hero. So I've been reading again. I'm going to be, on the third Sunday of every month, I'll be doing a seminar at the Heartfulness Center in Richmond. And the seminar is going to be Zen and the Art of Movies. As you know, I like to look, when I look at movies, I see them metaphorically, and I see the spiritual path buried in the movie itself. And so this usually it begins to pop out to me. And so movies become spiritual metaphors for me. And Avatar is the one I'm going to start with, and I'll probably say a couple of seminars on Avatar, because that Avatar is the best movie to blueprint the journey of the hero that I know of. So I'll be revisiting. I've already seen the movie 3 times, and I'll watch it again, of course. And I lost the paper once, but I sat down and I recorded the dialogue. So I wrote down the dialogue. And that's interesting, you know, particularly with a movie like Avatar, which is not real talky. But when you write down the dialogue, it's like a blueprint for wisdom. Every sentence is packed with wisdom, is packed with insight, universal insight. Universal insight. So, anyway, I'll be revisiting Avatar and talking about that. But the main thing about Avatar was all about the call to adventure. And usually, in our hero stories, there is the three types of heroes. There's the one who chooses the call, activates it. And there's one who is reluctant. He falls into it by accident. He doesn't want to be a hero. You know, like Bruce Willis, that type of hero movie, you know, where they're just trying to be a normal person and accidentally they fall into the heroic role. Well, Jake Sully in Avatar, accidentally, his brother got killed, and so he was picked to take his place. And he went on the voyage to Pandora, you see. So that activated his call to adventure. So all of us are really heroic souls longing to, looking to, waiting to, or actually doing or activating our call to adventure. And the call to adventure pulls us out of the known, pulls us out of our Groundhog Day, pulls us out of our vortex of circling around the doing like Seinfeld's last series when they were sitting in jail, just repeating the same script over and over again. You see, hell. That's hell. So hell is when you refuse or don't hear or don't want to answer the call. So you're in the world, just recycling yourself. In the world, you see. Just recycling yourself. It looks different, but you feel it's the same. It looks different, but everything is dead. It looks like it's going around, but it's flat. It looks like it has depth, but it doesn't, you see. And that's hell, basically. The hell where we have no being. You know, it's the self-swallowing snake alike, the Ouroboros, you see. So when we hear the call, it can come, romance is a call, a job, an adventure, a vacation. There's so many things. The call comes in any way that we're capable of. The call comes in the context of our life. But the call comes to transcend your known world. And we do this a lot in our society, but we do it in a not spiritual, we do it in a play way. Like vacation time. Okay. Oh, I can't wait to vacation. Or we go on, maybe we go camping. But we go someplace that's different from our known world. So there's an unknown there. So there we go. It's because it's unknown, you see. It's a call to be different than you are, to break the routines and all that, you see. But then we go back to the world. And we wait to the next year, you see. So we do a lot of these fictitious calls to adventure in our life, going to a movie. Oh, I want to go to a movie. Well, we go to a movie, and we surrender. We leave our shoes of the world at the door, and we go into the theater, and we sit down and turn out the lights, and we have an adventure. And we may be enlightened a little bit by it. We feel better. But then we return to the world, pick up our shoes, catch a bus, and go back into the Groundhog Day, you see. So even movies are an artificial call. So all of these, and a book, a crossword, you know, everything we do in our secular world are kind of like artificial or pseudo or make-believe or temporary or you pay for it, calls to something new, an adventure, where there's going to be a surprise. You want to be surprised. You know, that's what adventure is all about, being surprised. Oh, wow, I didn't see that before. Wow. In the mundane world of recycled life, there's no surprise. Every day is the same. You know, every day is the same, 9 to 5, same, you see. No surprise. But the real spiritual journey is not to go somewhere else, so to speak, but it's to go deeper into your own world. To go through the known and challenge the unconscious, the demons and the monsters in our own unconscious. The real spiritual journey is within. So you don't really have to go anywhere. You can stay in the same spot, same marriage, same household. But there has to be an intention of the hero. There has to be an awakening, a yearning of the hero for God, for the goddess, for the beloved, for something that won't let you go. You can't leave it. Something calling. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it is. That's what the adventure is. We don't know what it is. That's why it's an adventure. But we have to go. We have to go. So, thank you for dropping in. I'll see you tomorrow.